Okay, I'm sick, so apologies if I sound wrong or if I am lethargic. But Hunter x Hunter waits for no one, so we have some things to discuss. In my last video, which will be linked in the places where things are linked, I covered the first Hunter x Hunter arc, and in this video we're going to cover the next 2 arcs. I could probably split those 5 chapters up into their own video because there's enough there for me to talk about, but I'm only posting Hunter x Hunter videos every other week, so I figure you guys would probably prefer a combination. So let's do it. So in the second arc of the series, we are going to Killua's family, which, by the way, I'm trying to correct all the names that I got wrong in the last video. Continue to correct me if I'm still not getting any of them right. But anyway, we're on our way to Killua's family, and right off the bat, I love that there is a tour bus. These assassins, this assassin family is famous and notable and revered enough that there is a tour bus that you can take to go straight to their mansion, well, the gates of their mansion, to view them, but also don't try to enter the gates of hell because you will die and be eaten by a monster. And as we face the several obstacles to get to Killua, it is once again Gon's goodness and his determination that sway people into stepping aside for him. We have the guard at the gates, who's not actually a guard, but actually the cleaning lady for the vicious beast, Fluffy, who initially does all the things he's supposed to do, but in seeing the determination and I think the goodness in Gon, he shows them a way to train in order to get to Killua. So the 3 train up to be able to get through the gates so that they can get to the next challenge, which is Canary, which is my favorite. So I love her. I love that she is this, she's not a guard, she's a butler. I love her because her character design is awesome. I love her because she's this little kid that took out an army. I love her because Killua once asked her to be his friend, but she couldn't because of the rules of the manor, I think, and because of her determination. You can't get past this line. If you try to step past this line, you're going to be hit. And her fighting style is cool, and Gon's determination is once again on full display here, where he will not fight her because once again, he will not have a senseless battle. He will not fight for fighting's sake. He will fight with a purpose, or he will find a way around. And this way that he found around was to just show how determined he was to get to his friend no matter what, by stepping past the line and getting beaten and getting beaten and getting beaten, and then his friends are standing behind him just watching it happen, being there in solidarity. Oh, it was such a scene. And then at the end of it all, when she just can't beat him anymore and finally just says, "You must help Master Killua." Oh, before being taken out by the evil mother. And then our final test is the coin butler who uses his speed to test the boys in that way. And every obstacle they face, it seems to me like these guards and these butlers care about Killua so much. He is someone that they want to protect, and they want to know if he's going off with someone, then it better be someone worthy of him, and it better be someone that will look after him and will take care of him. What does that butler say? Look after Master Killua. It's just, I love the amount of love that these people who work for the family have for him, and that they too are testing our boys to make sure that they are worthy of Killua, of being his friend, and of taking care of him if he's going to be taken away from the family. Oh, but let's talk about the family and Killua. His family's character designs are incredible. His mother especially. Oh, I don't know her, but I don't like her, and her design is so haunting. His little brother, who I initially thought was his sister, but is actually his brother, stares into my soul. His father has a creepy face. I love their character designs. But also, we get a closer look into how terrible this family is and how much Killua has faced in his life up to this point. When his mom says that he's busy right now or something like that, and then we cut to him being hung up on the wall by manacles. clearly having been harmed up to this point. And then we cut to him and he's being awakened from his sleep, from his strung up sleep, with torture, with whipping, and he just so casually greets his brother who's torturing him when his brother puts a cigarette out on his chest, and he just dryly says, "Ow, that stings." And then and the way that he just is completely removed from all emotion, despite who knows how long he's been hanging here, who knows how long they've been torturing him for leaving their family. And he just accepts, this is what we do in our family. This is just the way it is, and he's just going to endure it until they're done torturing him, until he finds out that his friends are there and they could potentially be in danger. Then suddenly he rips the manacles off the wall with no effort and stops his brother from hitting him, and he's like, with that terrifying stare, says, "Yeah, I wouldn't do that." Just showing that he was enduring this torture as just a part of what his family dynamic is. It's not something that he was suffering through. I mean, I'm sure he was suffering, but it's not something that was being done to him. It was something that he accepted as a part of his family dynamic. I walked out, I stabbed my mom and got out of the house, which sure, out of context sounds bad, but they're bad people. I left the house and went against your will, and so now I am tortured. This is what we do in my family. And like, he was just accepting it. He could have fought back this whole time, but he chose not to, because this is just what his family dynamic is. That speaks so many volumes in and of itself. But his dad also really stands out to me, the way he can so lovingly call Killua to him and say, "I just want to talk to you. Just tell me what's on your mind. Do you care about these people? Do you want to go with them?" And he genuinely seems, and the grandpa too, genuinely seem to care about him. But also, like, it's not over. It's not done. They didn't just let him go. And now they're like, great, okay, we'll pick a different son to be the heir of the family. Which, by the way, why does Killua have to be the head of the family? I don't understand, because we have the brother that we met at the exam arc, who is clearly very talented, who actually knows what Nen is, and Killua doesn't know it. Like, they haven't even started training him and Nen, yet, what was his name? Illumine or something like that. Illumine. You know, the brother from the Hunter exam. He is clearly perfectly skilled at it and is already out on missions and already doing his due. You've got that brother, you've got the brother that was torturing Killua earlier, both older than him. Why is it Killua that has to be the next head of the family? Let him be. I mean, I understand that and a family of assassins probably just generally is never going to let their kid just be like, yeah, go pursue friendship instead of the family trade. But still, like, why does he, this was probably in the text somewhere and I've already forgotten. But why does he have to be it? Make it the creepy staring child if you must. But anyway, the way they let him go without a fight, there's clearly more going on here. And I don't know if they're gonna just chase him down after a certain amount of time, or if they just expect him to come back to him because he is a killer at his core. And if he tries to find friends, then, he'll be disappointed, or whatever their thoughts are. We're not done with them, which I'm thrilled by, because quite frankly, 5 chapters was not enough. I am so fascinated and terrified by his family, and I want more. But I loved these 5 chapters. I loved this tiny little mini arc because I expected a jailbreak. I expected them to rush in and perform a heist and steal Killua away. But instead what I got was a series of tests and a series of guards and butlers that challenged us and then stepped aside, and a family that were keeping him but that stepped aside. And that was such a surprising conclusion to this, a surprising way to get through this arc, but at the same time I really love it, because to me, having them all care about him so deeply, having the guards and the butlers care about him so deeply and test them to see if they're worthy of Master Killua's affection and friendship and care, to me that added, it made the plot and the action far less exciting, but it made the emotional impact 10 times stronger. And it made the mystery of it 10 times stronger. I have so many questions about Killua's family now. So many questions about what they're going to do and how they're going to intervene in the future. And I feel like that's what Togashi keeps doing with this story, is he's regularly making the action take a back seat so that he can do something more. And I really, as a character and themes reader, I'm very happy. But now we must speak about Heaven's Arena, which is a very action-packed arc. I'm a liar. So Gon has 2 goals: to land a hit on Hisoka to the point that he can return the badge, and to find the, what was his name? Kite? The guy that gave him the badge and that told him about his dad from way back when. First, we fight Hisoka. How are we going to get strong enough to do that? The Heaven's Arena arc, which is like a battle arena. It's a tower of battles, which sounds really exciting, and I did have a whole lot of fun. I'm gonna just talk about Killua a little bit more here before we dive into all the action because I love him. I love him so much. So they enter the arena. Immediately, Killua is giving Gon advice on how to land blows very well, how to be a little bit more physically skilled at fighting, and immediately these 2 kids are advanced to the 50th floor. Well, Gon is advanced to the 50th and Killua is advanced to the 100th because he's a veteran, because his dad dropped him off here when he was 6 and left him here on his own for 2 years to battle to get to the 200th floor. What kind of dad? What is this family? Anyway, but Killua says, no thanks. I'd rather just advance to the 50th floor, wanting to stay by his pal. Doesn't care about all this. Like, he didn't come to Heaven's Arena arc to get stronger. He came here to help Gon get stronger. He came here for his friend because that is the most important thing for him. That's what he's wanted his entire life. That's what he wanted this entire time. And that's what he's holding on to and what his ambition is. And as somebody who will live and die for a story about loyalty and friendship, I love him. He also stays by Gon's side whenever Gon has to wait to train in Nen, but Killua is allowed to start his training before him, and he's like, nope, I'll wait for my friend. And when that adorable boy who's already being trained by mentor fella gets kidnapped, Killua goes to rescue him and then actually makes a deal to throw some fights for the sake of Gon because he doesn't, let me find that part, because that was, here it is. I'll give all of you a freebie. Isn't that what you want? See, Gon already broke one promise to our teacher. He might feel too guilty to continue training if he breaks another, even if he has good reason to, and I don't want that. If you want to fight Gon, work around his schedule. Then he'd be more than happy to fight. He is willing to throw a fight to each of them. So this guy who has no issues whatsoever winning fights and who has just breezed through every battle he's had up to this point, who is so talented in all of these things, and who's just like, yeah, I'll throw the fights. Just so that Gon doesn't feel bad and potentially doesn't want to continue his training that I know is important to him. Ah! Turns out he didn't have to fulfill that promise because they didn't keep their side of the promise, which I'm happy with. But he's just, I love him. Plus that scene in the locker room or wherever they were with the guy that has a face like a mask and he's standing behind him with a knife to his neck with that look on his face that he gets. He is such a complex character. I said it in the last video, or maybe I said it in a reading vlog. I don't remember, which by the way, I have reading vlogs on my second channel. It's linked in the description, where I give weekly updates if you want to keep up with me more about how I feel about these books as I read them. Anyway, I said this before in another video at some point, but I can make a whole character analysis video on Killua now, even though I barely know him. I know Killua. Even though I know I'm gonna learn a whole lot more about him past this point, there's so much going on with this kid. Obviously, one big giant focus in the Heaven's Arena arc is the magic, learning the magic system, at least. I mean, I'm sure there's still a lot more for me to learn, but we spent a lot of time on it. And, I'm really impressed with this magic system because it's surprisingly complex. It has a firm base to it that seems simple enough, but then there's so many layers to it that add a lot of complications that really it's taking me a bit to wrap my head around. I'm not sure I fully understand it at this point, but it's a magic system that I feel like at its base is simple enough, but there's so many variables that complicate it. And honestly, learning the magic has me kind of recontextualizing a lot of the scenes that I've seen in the first 2 arcs, where I'm now looking back at things that happened and realizing I've been watching Nen in action for a while and I just didn't realize it because it was a lot more subtle. But now in this arc, in the battle format, where at first we're just having, you know, these simple like fistica battles, but then as we level up, then we're having to deal with this magic system, and we're having to see people who are extremely advanced in it, and we get to see it in such unique ways. And it's exciting because it's something that I think I can wrap my head around. I can't say that I fully have my head wrapped around it, but I assume we're gonna keep building on it. I'm gonna keep learning about it. But it's something that I know I can wrap my head around, but at the same time, it has so much opportunity for unique and creative abilities within each magic user in this world. And I'm just really excited to see more of it. I think my one complaint, or two complaints, I have two complaints about the whole magic system thing. One is that they just advance so fast. It's really just everything. It's the whole world at this point. Gon and Killua have advanced so fast in this world, and the same with the magic. They're basically prodigies. I mean, we had the adorable kid who's already been training under this mentor character. They had him as a great, like, marker of, like, standard ability, standard learning for someone of their age. And the way that he's been training already for so long, and then these two are just like, and we passed you. It's just like, it's so fast. But then also the kind of info dumpy way that we got this magic system, it definitely felt like there were chunks of this arc where the plot and the characters were kind of just, they took a back seat for a little while so that we could just spend some time learning about magic and the ins and outs of it. And again, you know, the pacing sometimes in this story, it just feels very stilted to me, where we'll just stop the story so we can learn something, and then we'll rush past some things so that we can get to the next thing. And it's like the pacing for this series as a whole just isn't my jam, but it's not really enough to, I mean, I'm still having a wonderful time. Now let's talk about the fights, because that's what the huge chunk of this arc is, and I loved the fights in this arc. So we're gonna start with Hisoka and Castro, because this was the first fight where I saw Nin on full display, and it just blew my mind, especially because Togashi will do a fight and not tell you anything, which I love. This is one way where his pacing is brilliant. He'll not tell you anything. He's not gonna stop the fight to explain something to you. You just have to watch the fight and be in awe, and then after the fight, then he'll sit down with you and say, now let me show you what I did. And I love that, because it makes the fight so exciting and terrifying and confusing, but thrilling. But then after the fight, when I get the explanation, now the fight is that much cooler somehow in retrospect than it was in the moment when I was reading it. It's brilliant. But I love seeing Hisoka in action against somebody who is well matched against him. His kind of calm stepping back and taking hits and taking real damage in order to be able to kind of understand what Castro's ability was and specialty, what his specialty was, and figure out a way around the situation, figure out how to not just punch hard enough to win, but to actually effectively win. But at the same time, that came at his detriment, you know, like his calm watching and understanding, assessing the situation and then reacting is wise. But at the same time, he has this drive of, I will not give up. I'll lose both my arms before I'll give up. Seeing his arms being broken off, pulling a playing card out from inside of his arm, seeing his illusions in action so that it looks like his arm is healed, even though he's just hiding the seams, and using his gum abilities to attach it back on, using his gum abilities to use a severed arm to land a blow. Eating the flesh from his arm, which I know was another illusion, but eating the flesh from his arm, like, this fight was nasty, but in like the coolest way. It was so brutal and fascinating and so cool. And then, like I said, afterwards, when he goes to the girl who was sewing him back up and irritated at him, what did she say? It was great. What was that? Performance art? She just calls him out. But she sews him back together, and we find that he didn't attach his own arm, which I could not for the life of me understand how he could attach his own arm and also control a severed arm and also control cards that you're not touching. I couldn't understand any of it. But in that whole scene where she's sewing him back together and calling him out and, you know, not taking any of his nonsense, and he's explaining the whole thing to us, the readers, it's like, this is brilliant. This is genius. This is an incredible use of such a, what seems like a very mechanical magic system, but then you see it in action and you realize there is a world of opportunity here, and the fights in this series are gonna be amazing. I also really loved the fight between Gon and the Dementor Dalek. I love seeing Gon's ingenuity and his determination anytime. Gon is a character that will constantly be faced against someone who's stronger than him, and he, like Hisoka, will stop and assess the situation and try to understand what's going on and sidestep it and find a way to effectively win instead of just punch hard enough. And he, like Hisoka, has this determination to him where, like, he could have died in that fight. He could have just taken the L. He could have just taken the hits, but he would not quit and fought for hours, enjoying dodging those tops and enjoying the fight. But seeing his ingenuity, seeing him use his fishing rod in a fight, which as soon as they said that an object that's really valuable to you, it can be more powerful with this magic system, naturally, immediately I'm like, oh, fishing rod, okay, we're gonna be using that, and then actually getting to see him use it, I loved. And then whenever he pulled the stone up from the ground and threw it at him to make him stop spinning, and then just punch. Oh my golly, what a great fight for Gon. But of course, the fight that we need to talk about the most is Gon versus Hisoka. Hisoka is a character that already really intimidated me before this arc. He's a great villain. He's an amazing antagonist. His bloodlust is very clear. His intentions are very confusing. He's such a mystery to me. But I feel like in this arc, I learned about his character so much more in not an info dumpy and explainy way, but in a really cohesive and natural way where I'm just spending more time with him and realizing how deep this man's insanity really runs. Hisoka testing him, playing with him, teaching him while he fights him to try to help Gon get stronger. But couple that also with the bloodlust that we saw inside him, his excitement, the thrill of the fight, and the thrill of realizing how far Gon has come already, how close to being ripe he is, the insatiable excitement that comes over him that he's like, I want to kill you right now. I want it so badly. I wish I could demolish you right now. I have to be patient until my prize is at its peak, until it's almost time to tear it down. The thrill. That's the only thing I can call it. The thrill that boils up in him, that he's like, I want to just snuff him out right now. I want to just kill him right now, but I have to be patient. I need to wait until he's this strong, until he's at his peak, so that I can have the most satisfying fight to the death. He's chosen Gon as a worthy opponent, as someone who can get good enough to have the ultimate fight to the death, but he's not quite there yet, and it's killing him to not just snuff him out now because he's already just so good. But no, he has to wait until he can have that best fight to the death possible. The man is shockingly horrifying. And then the imagery that Togashi gives us of how this bloodlust, this insatiable desire inside of him is so strong that it translates into like a sexual release, a sexual excitement. Which at first when I saw that panel, I was very put off because it looks like an adult looking at a 10-year-old and having a certain physical reaction, and I'm like, I'm sure that's not what you're trying to do here, but what are you trying to do here? But it all made sense the more time I spent in the fight, and I saw that it's just the fact that this bloodlust inside of him is so strong that it translates to that, which it just feels like a serial killer to me. It feels right. It feels exactly right. And I feel like in such an organic and natural and not stalling the story, not info dumpy, in just the perfect way, I learned more about this character and became even more freaked out by him. But back to the actual fight of it. I was concerned that Gon was gonna win this fight. I didn't want it. And I know that's not the way of the shonen manga formula, which I am new to shonen mangas, but I understand that shonen manga is more like, battle, lose, get stronger, battle, lose, get stronger, and that's how you level up. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like the right formula. I've heard people talk about that. And I know that it wouldn't be the typical formula of a shonen manga for him to win this one, but frankly, this series has thrown me for a lot of loops. And if I'm honest with you, just the expedited growth in skill that Gon has had up to this point had me concerned. It had me concerned that he was going to win this fight, and I didn't want it. Hisoka is too good of a villain for Gon to win after 6 months of training. I mean, plus the Hunter arena, but 6 months of training. He's too strong, and he's too excellent of an antagonist, and he's too excellent of an introduction into this magic system. I just didn't want it to be over. I didn't want their rivalry to be over. I want them to keep fighting. I want him to keep terrifying me. And I'm so happy with how it went. It was perfect because Hisoka was clearly holding back the whole time, still trying to train him, still trying to antagonize him, but Gon still landed that hit. He still got the punch. And then he interrupted the battle to hand him the badge, which was his one goal. Well, he wanted to train too, but it was the thing that he came here for, to hand that badge back to him. And it was such a satisfying scene. It was such a satisfying moment within a fight that Gon ultimately lost, which he needed to lose. And I'm so glad he did. He lost the fight, but he did accomplish what he came here for, which made it feel like a win as well as a loss. I can't imagine that the fight could have felt more satisfying than it was. But Hisoka did tell him that, next time we fight, it's not going to be in a battle arena. It's not going to be with rules. It's not going to be with points. It's going to be to the death. We're near there. You're near ready. Next time we see each other again, it's time. And now that I've fought with Hisoka, now that I've seen them fight and I've seen his bubbling over bloodlust, I am scared. I don't know. This guy freaks me out. He's a great villain. But they learned an N, which was the final secret test to becoming a full-fledged hunter, which is awesome. I really liked also checking in on how everybody else is doing, since, now we just have the two. We're so focused on them, seeing the other people that we finished the exam with and how they're doing with it, which was great, which was also, it was a nice reminder that we are going to come back to them, that it's not just the Gon and Killua story, which I wouldn't be mad about. But, I like those characters, so I'm happy to know that we're coming back to them eventually. I'm so excited to learn more about the magic system. I'm so excited to see more of Hisoka. I'm so excited to see more of the characters. I'm just having a great time, like I issued some complaints within this video about some things that aren't working for me perfectly in the story. Primarily it's the pacing, but I'm having such a good time. I'm having such a good time. This is such a straightforward yet emotionally complex story. I'm really, really impressed with it, and it's hitting so many balances so well for me that the complaints I have, they're legitimate, that's how I feel, but also I'm loving my time here. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on the second two arcs of Hunter x Hunter. I'm having a great time. Did I mention that already? If you don't already know, my schedule is that I post manga videos on Fridays, and I post One Piece videos every other week and Hunter x Hunter videos every other week, at least until I get through the series. So next week will be One Piece. Specifically, the video is called Why I Love One Piece. And then the following video will be the first half of the next arc, because the next arc is long. But be sure to chat with me more about anything that I talked about in the comments. If I messed anything up, if I misunderstood something, always feel free to correct me. If there's other parts of the 2 arcs that I didn't cover that you want to talk about, please do, because I definitely skimmed over some things. I post videos every Tuesday and Friday, plus videos over on my vlog channel on Thursdays where I talk about what I'm reading through the week as I'm reading it, so you can get more Hunter x Hunter content there. I'll see you again soon. Bye.